Okay, and we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Blair Robinson, founder of Practical Metaphysics. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is for you right now. It's early Sunday morning here for me, but for whatever time it is for you on the weekend, I hope you're having a great, awesome weekend, that you're managing to get a little bit of R&R time in, as I certainly am. This is a new concept that I'm calling the coaching couch. And you may be able to kind of figure out the reason why I'm calling it that, because I've got a new couch. And really all I wanted to do is just show off my new couch. But actually I thought maybe I could bring some decent content while I was doing that. And today, what I want to do is I want to bring in someone who has been a member of our group for, well, probably forever. Isn't that right, Jen?
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, just about forever. Jen Passavant, she's a healer. Oh, I'll let Jen explain exactly what she does. But please do give a warm welcome to Jen. Do you want to introduce yourself, Jen? Say hi.
Sure. So like Blair said, I'm Jen Passavant. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and I'm an energetic healer. And I've been doing that since about 2014. So we're going to talk about kind of what I do and my perspective of healing today. Well,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is going to be on the perspective of healing. Adrian's joined us as well. G'day, Adrian. Adrian's joined in the conversation, and I wanted to just let you all know that you can join in this conversation, anytime you like. There's a link on the actual post that I put up for this live, and if you click that, you've got the Zoom app on your device. You will be magically transported to the coaching couch in a virtual sense, and you can join us here on the live broadcast. So if you want to, it would be great for you to drop in if you want to come in and offer your perspective on healing and what all that's about for you, or you want to bring any specific questions or anything like that. I reckon it'd be great fun. Just click that link and open your Zoom app, and you'll be in here with the rest of us. So that'll be fun. So Adrian's already done that. He's jumped in ahead of time, so that's awesome. And Jen's been with us all along, so we're all good. So to kick this off, like I mentioned, that we're talking about healing, and healing is something that culturally in our society, I've noticed a lot of people tend to approach healing as, I'm broken, I need to be fixed. And we talk about this a lot in the group, in that, that particular approach to healing is a little bit disempowering. I mean, and when I was growing up, my parents and, all the people that I knew went to the doctor when there was something wrong, and they expected that the doctor would fix them. However that happened, you get prescribed some medication or he bandages you up or whatever it is. And so there's that culture of fix me that has been out there for a very, very long time. And I was thinking the other day, and one of Jen's live videos kind of inspired me to think on this a little bit more, is that it doesn't really, that fix me approach doesn't necessarily give us a very good sense of empowerment. And it doesn't mesh very well with the concept that we have about creating your own reality. Because if you're responsible for your own reality, the things that go on in your life and the situations and circumstances and all the stuff that happens to you in your life, and you're the creator of that, then how can you outsource your healing to somebody else? How is it that someone else has the power to actually heal you and put you in a different state to yourself? So I kind of wanted to resolve that a little bit and just talk through the concept of healing and some different ways of thinking and approaching it about how it works. So before we go over to Jen on that one, I just want to quickly bring up all the folks who have joined us. It'll just take me a second to do that. Here we go. Oh yeah, there we are. So Ron, g'day Ron, how are you, mate? Ron's here. So we've got Claire. Claire is here as well. Awesome to have you with us, Claire. And for those of you who are watching on the Facebook Live, do say hi. Just put a comment in there. Just say hi. Let us know that you're there. I can see that a bunch of you are watching, and so that'd be great if you just kind of reach out, say hi. Ron says he's working on fixing myself lately. That's good. That's actually going to be very pertinent to what we're talking about here today. And Nikki's just joined us as well. G'day, Nikki. How are you? Take yourself off mute. Say hi.
Hiya. Hello.
Good to see you. Yeah. So kind of the gang's all here. So this is good. Yeah. And as I said, if you've just joined us, you can join in this conversation as well. You can be one of these people on the screen. It looks about like the Brady Bunch. Does everyone remember the Brady Bunch TV show when they were kids? It's like everyone's in a little square. It's like, here's the story. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Sorry, Nikki, I think you're Alice at this stage on my screen anyway, so hope you don't mind. All right, Gory's here. G'day, Gory. Just saying hello. She's excited to see us, guys. Yeah, you can come and join us if you like, Gory. You know, you can hit the button and challenge yourself to come over and let's actually see you rather than just reading about you. That would be cool. Anyway. Yeah. Scary. So, all right, sorry, back to the topic of healing. One of the things, like I was saying before about this fix me concept, I wanted to ask you, Jen, in particular, how do you approach healing in a way that's empowering for people and not all about just, fix me and, make me better? What's your approach and how is it different to that?
So my perception on healing is that all healing is self-healing. Doesn't matter the modality. So whether you're seeing a doctor, you're seeing a psychiatrist, you're seeing an energetic healer, you're using crystals, you're using essential oils, you're using flower essences, it really doesn't matter. It's all in your desire for it and your allowance of it. And in that, you have opened yourself up to being healed, because really all healing takes place with your consciousness. That's how the placebo effect works, is by you thinking you're being healed because you want to be healed and you think you're being healed. Your consciousness is going to go, okay, and start manifesting that healing for you. You're in complete control of it. So a lot of people, like you said, have learned not to take responsibility for their own issues and challenges. And they kind of go, like you said, fix me. And so that is very disempowering. So it's not about saying, well, all your issues are your fault. It's about saying, okay, how did I manifested this, whether it's from a past life and it's in my energetic system, so I drew it to me, or it's some belief or trauma that I experienced as a child, or an injury, whatever it is, I've manifested this. So now what do I do about it? How can I heal it? So if you are capable of utilizing your consciousness to heal yourself simply by visualizing and knowing that you are whole and completely healed, good for you. Very few people have that ability. When you go seek healing from someone else, like me, or a doctor, or crystals, you're saying, I'm going to allow you to hold space for me and provide the opportunity for me to allow for the healing to take place. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So essentially, you're saying that healing is effectively our creation, as is the condition that needed healing in the first place. All of it is our creation. But how do you address if someone comes to you with a particular challenge in healing and they've had something happen to them that they didn't necessarily choose? Like they say, I had an accident, it wasn't my fault, that kind of thing. How does that work in amongst that concept?
So, and this is a tricky thing for people to wrap their minds around. Anything that happens to you on some level, you did bring it to you. So you've manifested it. Nothing can happen to you that you on some level did not agree to. So whether your higher self agreed to experience it before you incarnated because it would allow for karmic healing and releasing, or it's going to provide the opportunity for soul growth and a lesson for someone else. But no matter what, you manifested it. So even though that manifestation might not be a conscious choice, on some level, you drew it to yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I find that a lot of people are very resistant to that concept. And I come across this in the coaching world a lot when I say, well, you know, we've got to take responsibility for this being actually manifested in your life. And a lot of people aren't always ready to take on that responsibility. And I guess that's why it's good to go to a healer from that perspective, because even though you might not be ready necessarily to own what happened to you, a healer or a permission slip of some kind, like a doctor or a crystal or whatever it is, might actually give you, in a roundabout way, that permission to start on the healing journey, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. And if you think about it this way, as a collective consciousness, and I'm going to use, say, crystals as an example for this. As a collective consciousness, we agreed that certain crystals will hold a certain electromagnetic frequency. So if in our spiritual development on this planet, we feel that we cannot heal ourselves, we're not yet aware of that ability that we all have, we can then go to these particular crystals that we already agreed will be there to play that role for us.
Yeah.
You're calling on the doctor when you go see a doctor. You had an agreement with the soul that's playing the role of the doctor to meet with that doctor to provide the opportunity for healing. The same is true with an energetic healer. So you're manifesting all of that.
Yeah.
It's a co-manifestation, a co-creation.
Yeah, a co-creation. Yeah, yeah. And that actually fits in very nicely with the idea of us creating our own reality, because effectively, if we've created the condition that needs healing, whether or not we're ready to accept that we've created that or not, we also create the healing process, and we create the crystal, we create the drug. It's all part of a projection of our consciousness. So I think that's a really great approach to healing that actually brings the empowerment back, because when you realize it's you doing it all along, it kind of takes a bit of a weight. I see it as taking a bit of a weight off your shoulders and going, oh, actually, I've got this. I'm the one that is in control of this process, if you get what I mean.
Oh, yeah. We are all powerful beings of divine light, and we are in complete control of our reality. We've just been so well trained to get lost in this illusion of separateness, forgetting the law of unity and the law of oneness. So, yeah. Absolutely.
No, that's awesome. Yeah.
With the permission slips, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but you brought up a good point where it doesn't matter if you feel like you need crystals, or you need to go see an energetic healer, or you need to go see a doctor, or you need the flower essences or the aromatherapy. That's okay. There ain't no judgment in utilizing something that appears to be outside of yourself, because it's not outside of yourself.
Yeah, it's not outside effectively. Yeah, as you said. Yeah. And so that brings up an interesting point for me, because the process of healing, I think, is something I've always been fascinated by, and the different stages and kind of points of progress along the healing journey. I've always seen healing as being a process of inner change, even if it's an outer manifestation of an illness or whatever it is. If it's in your physical reality, there still has to be a process of going through an inner change that is then reflected in your outer world. And to me, a lot of the time, healing is about changing your state of being to be more representative of the healed state, rather than the state that you're currently in now, which is the broken kind of, not where you want to be kind of situation. Would you agree with that? Is that a true representation of the healing journey?
Wholeheartedly, because it's all a representation of our consciousness and the perceptions, the beliefs, and everything else. And so when you approach healing in a way where you are seeking the change, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, you are then shifting your beliefs, shifting your perception, shifting your understanding, which is all an internal process. And you are becoming, like you said, this newer version of yourself that now operates from a different perspective and with a different set of beliefs and outlooks. So it really is an inner process.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here, and Claire has made a comment about the grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a perfect example, actually, of that journey in action. In that, you know, something, a loss or what have you in your life that that you go through the grieving process of, and there's very defined stages of that process. It's quite well understood, but it is still a process of inner change. There's no magic pill you can take to shortcut the grieving process, as far as I'm aware, unless anyone knows one. But yeah.
I would speak on that if I could, for having gone through quite a few losses this year myself, and facing another potential loss in the near future. What I have come to understand in terms of what the process of grieving is that energetic release of that connection to a person's physical presence. So it's like you create an energetic bond to their physical presence. And that's why everybody, to some degree, goes through all of the same phases. Might be different orders, might be to different degrees, but it's the layers of attachment that we've had to their illusion of their physical being.
Yeah.
And as we release these energies, it comes out as emotion. So it's so important to go through the grieving process in a healthful way you can, and let these emotions out. That's one of the best healing remedies for anything, particularly trauma or anything like that, is to allow yourself to feel the emotions of the grief, of the trauma, whatever it is, because that's the energy coming to the surface and bubbling out of you. Yeah.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, having been through that process too, it's so important to get all that stuff out. And, you know, it's hard. It's sometimes, you know, for men, it can be a little bit tricky because men like to keep our emotions sometimes, not all the time, but we do like to bottle things up a little bit. And I was like that for years. I was just like, you know, had to be cool, calm and collected, had to be the one who was always in control. And I realized that really wasn't doing me any good at all. I was just carrying around the grief with me for years and years. And so, you know, took a while to get that process. There's a question that came up just from Ron a second ago. Ron's saying, yeah, you're talking about spiritual healing or emotional healing, that kind of stuff, but physical healing, how is that different? Because he's putting his comment here, that's your body doing the healing. So do you want to address that one, Jen?
Sure. Well, if you think about it, it's still energy. Everything is energy. Everything seen and unseen is all energy. So it's still vibrational healing. And it's still something the person has to allow. And because we've been trained that our physical body will just do its own healing on its own, because we hold that belief in our consciousness, that's the experience we have. You can seek that healing. Let's say it's something, not like an injury that you just have to wait it out and it'll heal, or a virus. Let's say it's something else, like, oh, you've got low back issues. Yep. That low back issue could be manifested from something emotional that, as that energy sat in your energetic field, it became more and more dense. And so therefore it became a physical manifestation. And so in releasing whatever emotions are attached to what is now a physical manifestation can ultimately resolve the physical manifestation as well.
Yep. I get that. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Nikki, sorry, I chucked you on mute because there was a bit of noise and I just unmuted you there. There we go. Sorry, I noticed you're putting some comments up, but feel free to jump in. Any of you guys who are on the call, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything.
No, I can't see the comments.
I'm all good.
No, you're all good? Okay. Yeah. So I can see the comments, so I'll read out the interesting ones that come up. It's quite a few that come up. So we've had Amber's been and gone. I think she's left a few comments and said hi, so she just wanted to say hi to everyone. It's good to have Amber back. I don't think I can ever remember laughing so much as I have when Amber was telling me a particular story about something that was going on in her life. And you might have even been on that one, Nikki, I don't know, but it was, oh my God. I was in danger of having an accident because that was so funny. She's the funniest woman I've ever met. Anyway,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
she is.
oh, there she is. Oh, and so, look, speak of the devil, there we are. Amber, hello. How are you, doll? Hey, say hi. No, she's not saying hi. She can't hear us yet. That's okay. All right, that's all good. So, well, thanks for joining us, Amber. So, Jen, I wanted to ask you about what's going on in a situation if you if you go for a healing session with someone like yourself who is a professional healer who knows the different modalities and different ways of doing it, and you go and you don't get healed, you don't get any result. I mean, given that you're the person that's in control of this, what could be possibly going on there that would stop you going on the healing journey?
But I'm not in control. I'm just the one holding space and providing the opportunity.
Yes.
Always in control. So there are a few possibilities there. So one could be on some level, even though consciously they want to be healed, there's some aspect of them that doesn't really want to be healed. And the most two common things that I've found are either they're afraid of the change that they're going to experience when the healing takes place. And this is a weird one because the person could be miserable, but it's actually really easy to get used to even being miserable. It's like there's a comfort in something that they've just gotten so used to. And so they can't imagine what their life might be like without the status quo. And so on that level, they subconsciously block the healing because of the fear of change. Another really common one is they're afraid to lose all the attention they get. There are a lot of people who love to talk about all their issues and want to get the, oh, are you okay? I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to lose that. It's become such a powerful reinforcer to get that attention that they don't want to lose that attention. But another one that I think is not often taken into account is that situation, that illness, that injury, that, whatever it is, might be providing some soul lesson or soul growth for you or someone else or a group of people. And that issue won't be resolved until that lesson or soul growth has taken place. And so I always try to stress when I try to explain to someone who's looking to maybe be one of my clients, not only that all healing is self-healing, so I'm just providing, I'm holding space and providing the opportunity, but also to not hold any expectations of what the healing is going to look like, how long it's going to take, what's going to be good, because you might go in and go, yeah, I want you to heal this issue in my low back, and your higher self might go, that's fine and dandy, we'll get to that at some point, but we need to deal with the issue that's in your heart chakra from when you were abused as a child. Yes. So don't hold any expectations, because if you do, then you might walk away thinking, well, I didn't get healed, she didn't heal me, when really healing took place, just it didn't look the way you thought it would.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't supposed to, because it's serving some higher, greater good. And of course, people go, what could that do? You just can't place judgment on it.
Yeah. No, I get that. No, that's awesome. I had a question about distance healing. This is something that's always intrigued me a little bit. And you see a lot of people who position themselves as distance healers, and I've seen a bit of resistance to that every now and then, in that there's questions about how effective could that possibly be, or is it just a placebo effect, or what have you? Do you have a perspective on distance healing and how that works?
Absolutely. And actually, to touch on the placebo effect, even if it is the placebo effect, it worked.
It's still an effect, yeah.
Right. But distant healing, there is a misconception. A lot of people think that somehow it gets diluted through time and space. But time and space exist, so energy is not bound by it. So that's why you can say, watch a video of a healer sending distant healing to the viewers, and the viewer might watch the video a year from when that person filmed it in our perception. But because every moment is now, they're still receiving the healing, even what we perceive being a year later. But to add to that, because this energy is not bound by time or space, it can be done often with greater effectiveness, because if the person is in their safe space, they're in their home, they're in their pajamas, they're comfortable, they're just in their comfort zone, and they're not concerned with the veneer of being judged based on what they look like, judged for their wounds, judged for their issues, judged for anything. They can just go and be them and be in their safe space. And that allows for a much greater receptivity of the allowance for being healed. Because again, it's just an allowance of it. And then even for the healer, I could be in my pajamas and no makeup on, and I'm not worried about, the veneer of judgment and what the client is going to think of me. And so I am better able then to just kind of let loose and do what I am best at. So I have found distant healing to actually be more effective and my preferred modality.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. That is very cool, because I've noticed a similar thing, as a coach. I guess I approach what I do to a degree as a healing journey, in that I will talk people through the healing journey, through the cycle of change, and to kind of get them moving on their way. And then they would approach specific healers to address specific things along that journey. But I find that exactly as you said there, that when you are in that kind of distant mode and you don't know the person that well, you're a new person in their life, it gives you a bit of a permission to kind of just come out all guns blazing and just call it as you see it, because there's no pretense, there's no having to warm up and, do that. And I find it, if I have people in the office with me for coaching, I can find it can be a little bit confronting sometimes, even when you're face to face with someone. So, doing it remotely, I think is a good thing too. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And although I have to say, if you did healing from that setting that you're sitting in right now, I reckon I would be healed just like that. It's so beautiful, just that backdrop that you've got there.
This is my personal paradise. This is my backyard.
Oh, wow.
It is my personal paradise.
Okay, so I'm serious location envy right now, and all I've got is this couch.
I love the couch. I'm a little envious of the couch.
Oh, good. we can trade envy then. But no, I think that's awesome, and I think it's a really empowering thing. I think it's great that we can approach healing in this way. Just a couple of comments that are coming up. Claire is saying that she's done distance healing for her mum-in-law and it works. Yeah. And what kinds of things would you do over distance healing? I mean, typically, Jen, what would you approach? And any of your other guys who do that kind of energy work, if you want to jump in as well, please do so. What kind of things can you address with distance healing?
Anything, because again, everything is energy, and all just vibrating at different rates. So it's anything. So it can be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, which is why even on the emotional note, there have been many times when I've been doing healing, whether it's distant or on my table, and the person erupts in tears because I've been able to kind of remove the blockage, which is like the cap, sort of like you put baking soda and then vinegar into a jar and then you put a cap on it and it sits in your energetic field for a while, right? If it's some sort of emotional trauma, as they just go and allow you to, if you choose, it's your choice whether or not you allow it or not, to come out. And then I actually work with a seraphim angel who refers to himself as Ian and Kuan Yin, and they, with me, flow divine or higher vibrational energy into this energetic field. And it's sort of like flushing a wound with like water or peroxide. As you're emoting, you're kind of releasing the grunge, so to speak, the pus or whatever you want to call it. And I'm sending in healing energy to help push it out, but also to fill that void, because once you release something, you want to replace it with its positive opposite, because you create a vacuum.
Yeah.
So, and actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on emotional healing or trauma. And as I touched on earlier, one of the best ways to heal from trauma or an emotional wound is to put yourself back emotionally in that emotional state. So you sit there and you visualize being in that moment when that trauma occurred. And because your body doesn't know the difference. When you tell your brain, I am in this place and this is happening to me, your body's going to respond. It's going to start producing the chemicals. Your consciousness is that powerful. So you put yourself in that state and you allow the emotions to come out. You ugly cry, you punch the wall, whatever you got to do. But once you've let it out, replace it. So go back into that moment, but pick an alternate reality where you see something or experience something that is a preferred or the positive opposite of what you experienced initially. Because then you're telling not just your consciousness, but let's say you have a physical issue that has now manifested from that energy sitting in your system. You're now telling your body to respond differently.
Yeah.
Because you might let it out, but your body's going, but I didn't get the memo. So tell your body to do something differently by using your consciousness to see a different outcome. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah. And it makes sense to me because in going through a cycle of change, there's a very strong inflection point where, trauma might have occurred in life. And it's not until you get to that point of acceptance that this occurred that you can then go on that journey to, replace the negative emotions with positive ones or let go of the beliefs that are underpinning the experience. And so to me, that's a very, very important step, is to go through that process that you said just then of really going back into the situation and really re-experiencing and letting that out. Because I just don't think you can move forward any other way. It's always how it's played out for me, in those really difficult times in life. And I think we're designed to do that to a degree. I think the human being, like when you see something, there's a shock, and it's like, a shocking thing will happen and it will literally jolt you out of that reality that you're in. And the idea is then you've got to replace, with a new reality that takes the learnings from the experience, not so much going back into that previous state of being where you were in that shocked state and rejecting what was going on and not accepting it and fighting against it and so on and so forth. It's not until you get to that point of acceptance that I've found that you can move through that journey. So it makes complete sense what you said.
Yeah, and you're so right. You have to replace it. And even if you go, let's say you're talking to a counselor or a loved one, and in that way you are allowing yourself to go back to that point. The whole purpose, granted it sucked to begin with, and it's really overcoming a fear to reface those feelings. And so I give props to anybody who's willing to do that, because that's not an easy thing to do. But anyway, whether it's with a counselor or you're going through regression like hypnosis, or whether you're talking to a loved one and you allow yourself to go into that emotional state and release it, the point is, yes, to make that be like a springboard where you're not just continuing to cycle through just the flashbacks and the trauma, where you're using it as a springboard to, okay, now I want to move forward in a different, more positive way.
Yeah.
And so then replace it, like you said, with a positive opposite. And then as an energetic healer, if I have someone that I'm working on that is holding a trauma, I can, like I said, if they allow it, remove the blockage. If they allow it, they will release the emotion. And if they allow it, they will accept the new energies. So I, and I say I, because I don't want to speak for other energetic healers, can then infuse that area with a positive opposite using divine energy as opposed to a certain image or perspective, but it's divine, a divine positive opposite using an energetic healing modality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Really good questions just come up from Facebook Live is, what if you have issues with memory and you don't remember what caused your trauma?
That's okay, because there are things that have happened in in previous lifetimes that you don't remember, and you can still use your consciousness or energetic healing because you don't have to necessarily know what happened, even as long as you release the emotions. So if through hypnosis, and hypnosis is really good at allowing you to bring those memories back, and it allows you to trigger those emotions, great. If you go see an energetic healer, and in laying on the table and the healer's, kind of releasing the cap and you're emoting, I have emoted on something on a healing table and I had no clue what I was emoting. Not a clue, but I was bawling my brains out, ugly crying on the table. And I used my intuition later to go, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, in another lifetime, alternate reality, I had made the difficult decision of aborting a child, and I carried that guilt and that trauma with me. So you don't have to know what it is. If you just know that you're holding on to something, and you can just placing the desire to be healed, to release it, and to move forward in a more positive way, you will be guided then to the appropriate healing modality that is right for your personal beliefs, your perspective, and the energy of whatever it is that needs releasing, even if your consciousness isn't aware of what it is. That was a lot. Does that make sense? Sorry.
No, that makes absolute sense, because I had that same experience myself. Sorry, Nikki, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, just to add to that, for Kathy, I work with a lot of people who don't have memory of what trauma they have experienced, or not remembering what's caused their issues. And one of the great things about all of the work that we do, and as Jennifer was just talking about, is the very fact that we're using our imagination, we're using our subconscious. So we are able to completely create a story that needs to come out so that we can heal what we need to heal. And sometimes that story won't be true, it won't have happened to you in this lifetime, but in doing so, in using our imagination, we're able to bring out what's needed and to help make logical sense of it for ourselves so that we can move forward.
That's a great point. Thank you so much for saying that's a great point.
Yeah, that is really great. And imagination, I mean, and that gets talked about a lot in our group too, in that my perspective on imagination is that it is actually real. It is a real experience. It's just not at the frequency of your physical reality necessarily, but it is still just as real. And I think that is such an awesome point, to use that ability that we have, with our imagination to actually draw out these things. And like it happened to me in my own experience on a massage table, and then suddenly all of these memories coming out as I was going in for a lower back problem, and all of this stuff coming out, all of these other memories, alternative memories that I didn't know I had. And at first I thought, well, I'm just imagining this. And then I realized, well, there is no difference between a memory and an imagination, is there really, in terms of that process? Yeah. So.
Not at all. And I love both of your points. That's so true. And to kind of jump off of what you were just saying, Blair, back to the placebo effect, your imagination, as you're visualizing something, your body doesn't know the difference between whether or not it's happening in your physical reality or in your mind. You're going to start releasing whatever chemicals. So if you're visualizing something fearful or scary or negative, you're going to notice your body's reacting in some way. Your muscles tense up, whatever it is. Or if you're visualizing something just super relaxing, like a meditative, a beautiful scenery, and you're visualizing yourself laying on my personal favorite, in a forest on a mat of moss. Oh, yeah.
You're doing that now.
Right? Almost. I just need my mouth. Your body is going to go, I'm really there, and start responding, because your consciousness really is the most power. We are our consciousness. This is an illusion. Our consciousness and our divine aspect is who we really are. So that's why the placebo effect is so effective, because our mere belief of something being true manifests that in our physical reality.
It absolutely does, and we see it time and time again in in situations of and I work with people a lot who are experiencing lack and can't get themselves out of a situation of lack, and whether that is financial or whether it's emotional or whether it's whatever's going on for them in their life. And to my mind, the most effective way to transform a situation of lack into a situation of abundance is to simply not focus on the lack anymore, and to focus on the abundance that you do have in that particular situation. And that, as far as I can tell, in every situation I've ever used it, has generated that abundance just by changing that state of being that you have, and focusing in that way brings it about.
Absolutely. And then when you tack on you switch your focus And so you're focusing your intention and your energy. You're directing your energy to what you want and not what you don't want. And then you add to that because really with any manifestation, whether it's health related, abundance or prosperity related, your emotions are the rocket fuel. So if you're putting a lot of fear and towards something, or let's say you're looking at what you want, but the energy you're sending to it is, I'm afraid that's not going to happen, or I'm afraid I'm not worthy of that. P.S. This is the life of me talking now, not the energetic healing. You're then just going to manifest more of the not having it, not feeling worthy of it.
Yeah.
But because the emotion behind it is the fuel. But if you shift your focus to what you want and say, I'm excited. This is happening to me. I just have to let it manifest in my physical reality. But in the ethers, it's already there. I just have to let it happen. And I'm so excited and I'm so full of joy that I am manifesting this, because that joy and excitement is one of the highest, like, what's the word I'm looking for? That's about all I can come up with. That's all I got. It just puts such a great rocket fuel behind whatever it is you're trying to manifest. So don't just focus intention and visualize it so that your body thinks it's actually happening, and then be like, holy shit, I'm so excited. I cannot believe this is going to happen. I can't wait till it manifests in my physical reality. This is awesome. Thank you, higher self. Thank you, divine aspect, blah, blah, etc. Whatever you got to say that gives you.
Oh, I think. Oh, you're back. That's okay. Sorry, we just lost you for a second there, Jen. But that was absolutely awesome. And you know, excitement is one of the things that I talk about a lot, because to me, the energy of excitement is a recognition of your true self. And when you see something, a reflection in your reality that excites you, that is a reflection that shows you, hey, this is who you are, you know. And when you're excited about something that you're thinking about, it's like, you know, that is, you know, technically a translation, a recognition of that core frequency that is you, uniquely you, your kind of signature vibration. And so if you put that out there, if you take action to crystallize that excitement in your physical reality, no matter what happens, it's going to be aligned with your process of excitement and your process of becoming more authentic, because, you know, it's the intent, like you said before, the intent behind your action is key. If you're taking action from a place of fear or negativity to avoid something or so on and so forth, then that's just going to bring more of that fear and negativity back to you. But you could take the same action from a place of excitement, and that would give you a very, very different result. So it's all about the intent behind your action. Would you agree?
Oh, wholeheartedly. If you combine not only the intention of manifesting what you want and not what you don't want, and then you add to it the excitement, joy, gratitude, and love. You put those together, you're golden. Just you're expecting it. Now then it's just a matter of, I'm just expecting it now. You know? Yeah. I wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So Kathy just put up a question. Yeah, this is interesting. All right. About, she says, I've already had enough embarrassing behavior in public, not wanting to release and ugly cry in front of other people and that kind of stuff, you know. Does that mean I can't heal? But she's also said, without negative, sad emotions and without hiring someone, like, without engaging someone like yourself as a healer, Jen, what can people do to start their healing journey if they don't necessarily have the means to go out and see a healer? What other stuff can they do to go on that journey?
Well, to address Kathy's question about if they can't ugly cry because they're in a public space, which I totally get, you can always place yourself back. You know, go home, go into a public space, and put yourself back in that moment when that emotion wanted to initially erupt, and then let it come to the surface and go for the gold. If it doesn't come up, then set the intention that you will be guided to whatever modality, even if it's you learning how to shift your own consciousness, whether it's using crystals, whether it's using aromatherapy or flower essences or an energetic healer or a counselor or whatever it is, that you will be guided to the perfect modality of healing that is perfect and right for you. And then again, with the manifestation, just expect it. So it's, don't place any worry about, oh, crap, I didn't cry, now I'm not going to heal, because then you're going to bring more of that experience into your reality, and of course that's not what you want. So instead, focus on healing and the intention that you're going to heal. It's going to happen. It's let the universe and your higher aspect manifest for you the perfect modality for you, whatever that is. Yeah. And then you oh crap, what was the second question?
Let the universe manifest the appropriate modality for you, as in let it unfold the way that it's going to unfold.
Yeah, but there was a second question. How to heal on your own? God, what would I do without him? So to heal on your own, I think I did just kind of answer the question, because it really is about setting the intention. Yeah. If you can learn to set the intention and expect it, whatever's right for you is going to be guided to you.
Yeah, I get that. One of the great modalities that I use for healing is to get in my car and yell at the top of my voice if I'm frustrated about something.
Awesome. I vent to my friends.
Yeah.
I just vent and I let it all out, and I can be a complete wench and I know I'm in my ego. I'm just getting it out of my system so I can stop operating out of ego, because even with anger and crying, no matter what, it's got to get out. So your anger is not going to come out with tears necessarily. It's going to come out when you vent, and venting can be really fun if done in an appropriate way. But as long as you know you're venting and you're just getting these emotions out of your system, so you could then replace it with the positive opposite. That's great. I think that's probably one of the best things.
Yeah. Adrian, did you want to?
Yeah, please. Any disease is because of energetic dysfunction. So for me on the healing side is if I discover I've got like a headache or whatever, if it wasn't the wine, then it must have been something else. So then if it was something else, then I would go in and ask the question. So what life diminishing energy am I carrying around with me that's causing this pain? And then I can just let it, I've learned how to, in a sense, transmute that energy by forgiveness of myself or whatever. There's Ho'oponopono kind of stuff. There's so many things we can use to plug ourselves into the life enhancing energy. And then the thing just goes away. People unfortunately, they feel they have to suffer through something. They have to struggle with this disease, when in many cases, it's a case of either self-forgiveness, letting go of the anger, letting go of grief. You can actually cause so much disease in your body that if you don't do something about it, it'll kill you. So, it'll just keep on diminishing your life experience until there's nothing left. So if you catch it fast enough, then we can help the person, or you can help yourself, really to understand how to let go of this life diminishing energy and just gradually float, in a sense, into this better being. And that's where the peace and the excitement and everything just comes by itself. You say, geez, this is good. I didn't expect this. This is awesome. So, I don't know if that makes sense, but that works for me.
I am so glad you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, because all healing is self-healing, you don't need someone like me to run energy through you, or you can, yes, exactly, ask your smart body and your higher self, like Adrian said, what am I holding on to? And then you can go into a meditative state and let your divine aspect and your smart body tell you what it is and show you how to heal it. Or you can draw on your own, draw down the highest level of divine light through and around your entire energetic system, with the intention that whatever it is going to get flushed down the proverbial energetic toilet as it gets pushed down through your energetic system and grounded down into Mother Earth, or however you feel inclined to use energy healing by yourself, on your own, because we're all healers and we all have this gift and ability. So Adrian, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah. No, that's very good. I have a relative going through chemotherapy at the moment, and that's really interesting because she's younger than what would normally be the case. And she got 3/4 of the way through the chemotherapy treatment and said, actually, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to, find something else. Something else must be better than what I have here now, because she was going through such a lot of pain and trauma with the chemotherapy. And it's harsh stuff, man. That is hard work, going through chemo. And she, as a result of that, just simply the exploration, the decision to go, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to explore other stuff. I don't have the answers, but I'm going to go on a bit of a search and ask the questions and do all that kind of stuff, has made a massive shift I've noticed in her and on her healing journey just from making that small shift. So I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah. And I think, because we were all talking about self-healing, all healing is self-healing, whether you do energetic healing on your own, whether you seek out a modality that resonates with you, I would encourage everyone who's interested in this topic of using your consciousness to heal yourself, or self-healing where you're in control and you're not seeking it from someone or something outside of yourself, which there's no judgment for, because really nothing's outside of you, in reality. But study epigenetics. And a couple of my favorite epigenetic authors are Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza. And they have a lot of great books. They have done a lot of great documentaries with other people who are well schooled in this. But I think this is kind of the future of healthcare and medicine. So yep. I would encourage everybody to look at that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So we've got just one more comment there from Kathy that I wanted to address, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. But Kathy has just put here about a terrible cycle of depression. No one wants to hear my venting, so they leave. They don't want to talk to me. That creates more depression. And you're in that cycle of having negative experiences that then create more negative emotion, that then create more negative experiences, and you're in that spiral, that downward spiral. And so on that one, Kathy, it's really important to find a new perspective and a new way to look at that kind of stuff that's going on in life, to get yourself out of that cycle, because that cycle is constructed by your consciousness. It's your spin on what's going on in your life. And you say here that no one wants to hear your venting. It's like, well, okay, that's a negative thing. And that's a negative judgment that you're placing on yourself, which says, I'm not important enough for that to consume that person's time. Or, my issues aren't important enough for them to be bothered with. And it puts you in that negative position. But it might not be that. I mean, people might not want to be hearing your venting for different reasons. And it might just be that maybe what you're saying reminds them of some aspect of themselves that they're not ready to hear. They're not comfortable to hear it just yet, that kind of thing. We don't always have to take a negative experience and make the assumption that we are a bad person because of it, because that just creates more negative experience. There could be a gazillion reasons why people would, leave and not talk to you because of it could be something going on with their life. In fact, it would be, at all times, it's to do with them and not so much you. So the idea is to not take it on as a negative thing so much, and let's just chip away at these negative beliefs that when people act in a certain way, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're less than, or that you're a bad person, or that you've done something wrong. It can be for so many different reasons. And so we've got to get to that place of neutrality where people can take action in a way that's detrimental to you. They can take action towards you in that way. And you can be like, well, that's your problem. It's not mine. Your monkeys, your circus, your monkeys kind of concept. And we just need to get a little bit more to that place of neutrality where we're not always making a negative judgment about ourselves because of the actions of other people and the other stuff that goes on in life. That was the thing I wanted to say about that. That's probably the first little step towards getting out of that constant spiral of negativity that just creates more and more and more. It's just a shift in mindset, and it's a shift in your perspective. And sometimes it can be difficult to make that shift, but that's why we have coaches. That's why we have lots of people who are out here in the group who will offer you a more positive perspective. And I would be encouraging you to use, if you don't have the resources to hire a coach or a healer or someone like that, to even just use the group to say, listen, a person acted towards me in this way, and I can't see a positive reason for it. Can anyone come up with a new perspective that I might not have seen before that says, you know, that puts this in a positive light? And I guarantee you will find some people coming back to you, telling you things that you hadn't thought of. And it was like, oh, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way before. That's awesome. I'm going to think of it that way, you know, and that will help you and get you through that process. So I just wanted, yeah, that's what Ron just says, Kathy, you've always got us, which says it much simpler than the way that I just said it. So thank you for that. Nikki, is that you? Yeah.
Yeah. We missed a quite a good question here from Gori, which was about distance healing. And she wanted to know, does the subject need to engage or be aware of the healing, or can you heal someone who hasn't asked for it? That's why it's a really good question.
That is an excellent question. And Gori's pretty good at asking good questions, I have to say. Who wants to take that one?
I can start, and Nikki, if you, or any other ones who are there, Adrian, if you want to tack on anything that I didn't cover, please feel free. So ideally, the person is conscious of it, mostly because I just think it's the high integrity thing to do, that they agree consciously to the healing before it takes place. But for someone in a situation where maybe they're unconscious or whatever, you can always set the intention that the healing, whatever healing takes place, will only be allowed for their by their higher self. So their higher self will only allow healing to take place if it is for their highest and best good, and whatever healing takes place will only be for their highest and best good. So you're kind of getting their permission of their higher divine aspect as opposed to their conscious self. So yes, it can be done without them knowing, but I prefer that their conscious self be aware of it and give permission for it. When I set the intention with the client over the phone, I set the intention and then I say, do you agree to this healing? Because them saying yes opens up that much more allowance for it, because it's all self-healing.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really interesting that that question actually came up, because I experienced working with a client last night who, I call them a client, they're not a client, they're a friend of mine, but we'll call them a client for these purposes. Basically, it's very rare that I'm able or even think to feel this person's energy other than, you know, on your normal sort of radar. But their energy was, you know, smacking me in the face via WhatsApp. So I literally said, you know, something going on, you know, do you want to have a look at this? And they were like, yeah, okay, let's have a look. Let's try and sort whatever this is out. So I obviously did a little checking out of what was going on with them, and even then, even though I've got their higher self literally saying to me, yeah, do this work, it's cool, yeah, crack on, regardless, I still needed to speak to the actual conscious person, the physical person, and say, you know, this is what I'd suggest we have a look at doing. Shall we do that? Would you like to do that? And they're like, well, can you tell me a little bit more about it, because I like control. So we talked a little bit more about it, and then they said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And again, you've got the higher self going, seriously, you've just talked for 5 minutes when you could have, you know, been getting on with it. You know, I agree, it's fine. So what's best for our highest self, what's best for us and our highest good, doesn't always filter straight down into the consciousness. And, you know, we've got to remember that we're very physical beings that might not be comfortable with cracking on with just healing something really easily. When they asked though, so they said to me, do I need to do anything specific? And I said, no, you just carry on with whatever it is you need to do. And I did the work, and I let them know that I was finished. And they said that was really cool actually, because this happened and blah blah blah, and they're very metaphysical, they're very spiritual people, so they're very aware of themselves. But regardless, that happens quite a lot. And often when we're doing distance healing, for me personally, it's easier if the person is just carrying on with their day, doing whatever they need to do, because otherwise they start interfering in the work. So yeah, you don't need to engage in it or be aware of it, but personally, not only because it makes good sense and it's polite, but also, because it's just wrong to go digging in and healing people without their permission and without their knowledge, or it's like rummaging around in someone's underwear drawer. It's not okay. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop talking now.
No, that's awesome. I do find that the higher selves, our higher selves, and we'll do a thing on higher selves at some point, because I think that's something that we could do with a lot of clarification about what the actual higher self is and how it works and what its function is in our lives. I find higher selves to be very impolite, and if you had a dialogue with your higher self that was like, higher self, should I do this or should I do that? Usually they say whatever the fuck you want. I don't care, whatever.
Why are you still asking?
Yeah. Why are you asking me this stupid question? But there are certain things where, and this is something that I find really interesting, is that there are certain things that our higher selves will draw us towards and away from in order to guide us through the process of aligning with our best way through life. And usually we don't listen to the guidance. Usually if it comes through intuition or imagination or what have you, and we go, oh no, I'm not going to do that. No, I couldn't possibly do that. And your higher self is up there on the mountaintop going, no, go left, go left, go left, go left, go left. Oh God, you went right again. And it's just, so you understand that they must kind of get a bit frustrated being a higher self, and just trying to guide. It's like herding cats, I suppose, in a way.
Yes.
Yeah. So they can be very impolite.
Ron just mentioned that he has faith that praying works whether someone asked for it or not. And I completely agree with that. However, praying for someone is not setting any kind of boundary, expectation, healing. It's just literally sending up and saying, do whatever is best, which is something a little bit different to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I always have approached prayer as a form of gratitude, in like a thank you process. Whereas a lot of people see it as a request, as in, I'm going to pray for this to happen, or a particular outcome, whatever. But it's weird. I've always seen it as a way of giving gratitude and saying, hey, thanks for, like the concept of saying grace before a meal. Not that I do that myself, but that's how I see prayer. But I suppose it's very different for different people, and that is a big topic of conversation for another time. Yeah, so we're all good. So all right, well, we're on the hour, so we've probably taken up enough of Facebook's whole compute capability. So we should probably and Nikki's having a glass of wine, so that's all she wrote. That would be like, is that a glass of wine or is it water? It looks like white wine. Okay. Well,
it was wine. It's no longer wine. It's now gone.
It's
I'll
now
be joining you in the wine department shortly.
It's Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live on the coaching couch. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic. I would love to do this more often with as many of you as who would like to join. As I said, you know, for the future ones of these, you can join in too. And I really do encourage people to jump on. It's great that Amber joined us as well. And just saying hi. It's good to have you there, Amber. And Adrian, Nikki, and Jen, thank you so much for being here. All right, I'm going to wrap it up now, unless anyone has any final words, and bid you all a great Saturday and a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Blair.
All right, guys, thanks. And we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.